Good evening. Today is August 5th, 2009. It is 5:35 p.m. This is a regular board meeting of the Brownsville Navigation District. Reverend, would you lead us in a prayer?
Yes. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this opportunity to begin this meeting tonight with giving our attention to you. For you are the one who gives us grace and ability to bring success to all that we do. Father, we pray tonight for your blessing upon our deliberations. Father, we pray, Father, for unity and understanding for the plans and purposes that you have for this port, that your blessing may be upon the port, all who work here and this city. Father, we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay. Item number 2, there's no public audience. Okay, go to item number 3.
Item number 3, receive Port Director's report. Item A, update on port security public awareness campaign.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission, John Sawicki with O'Brien is going to provide us an update on the Port Security Public Awareness Campaign and also a brief update on the exercise that we had here last week and was concluded. So let me, with that, just call on John.
Give you all a couple of minutes.
Thanks.
Commissioner Eddie.
Don, I appreciate the chance to give you all an update. One of the grant projects we've been working on is to develop a public awareness program based on the threat assessment that was done. And so the team was brought in to working closely with George and the others and the Coast Guard and a lot of the agencies around the Customs Board, the FBI, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, and the State DPS has kind of sponsored it with us. If you look at it, the slogan, the now, not our waterways, is basically just kind of a call for people to get their waterways back to themselves and make them safer. And we thought about identifying specific threats that they should go after, but after talking about it, we decided any suspicious activity, anything illegal, that's all. The difference between the federal program, because there is a America's Waterway Watch program out there, but the phone number that they call goes to a recording and nothing really happens from it. In this one, the state DPS is offering to provide a person that will actually answer that number in Spanish or English and then tell them whether they need to call 911. And that prompt to call 911 is important because it's kind of intimidating if you never call 911 to know if you're supposed to do it. And if this guy tells them to do it, we're hoping that some people will actually do it. If we're going to get the numbers wise, we're not sure how many more we're going to print out. We're thinking probably 1,000 at first, and then put them anywhere where a fishing license is sold, to schools, anywhere we can post them up for people to call in when they see. This is a sticker that we're going to print a bunch up, and the hope is that people will start putting these on their boats, just kind of put them everywhere without littering the community with them. But, that's pretty much it. The DPS in the state's really excited about it. It's a way for them to start tracking some of the incidents that occur, and they want to kind of push it up the coast to basically be a Gulf Coast deal.
Why don't they get the Texas Parks and Wildlife involved in that too? Because I understand that we applied for that grant that and they got that boat, and they were supposed to be patrolling the channel with that boat. And so, I mean, if we can link up to them as well, because they're in the water, that would certainly help. Because assuming they call 911, well, I don't know from where the call goes. If it goes to a law enforcement agency, do they have access to the water, on the waterways? So I guess if they can get a hold of Texas Parks and Wildlife, then that's fine. But
the idea of the infusion center in Austin, they're all supposed to be grouped. There's supposed to be a seat at the table for each of those groups. So
okay.
The idea is that once it's developed and they start to have confidence in it, that they could dispatch someone in each of the agencies that's there.
Yeah. Okay.
So in the beginning, the Coast Guard's not going to put someone in the water and fly up the channel if someone calls about illegal fishing.
Right.
The
right.
Fusion Center would be like everyone who would have, on a need-to-know basis, would get the notice at one time. So it's kind of like having, a central location where you wouldn't have to notify each agency separate. It's there, and hey, it goes out at one time. So everybody, whether it's the Coast Guard, DPS, Parks and Wildlife, or any other pertinent entity, would see it and would know what to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Texas Parks, they are helping us patrol the channel. They're the ones that respond most of all to anything.
To the
that happens to the
whatever
Coast
calls
Guard.
are- okay.
Yeah, they do. They come up because they board your boat and they check if you've got fishing license, if you have too many fish. So nobody likes to get them on their bad side. So if they come around,
They want your ID and your
Yeah,
registration
yeah,
and
yeah.
how many life jackets you
Right,
have and do their
right.
fire
So
extinguishers.
they do an entire
That's-
check.
An entire inspection of the.
Oh, yeah.
They do. They do.
Once you
And
get
if you're
through,
lucky,
Okay.
you're lucky, you get followed up by the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The state's pretty excited about it, 'cause there's really no other program like this where a court is taking on themselves to clean up with the state, so they're pretty excited.
Well,
about it.
the flyers look good, and let's hope we get some responses out of that if there's anything happening out there, so.
That'll be good. For the exercise, we had
Last week.
Last week, yeah, sorry. 5 weeks ago. Put together. It went well. It was a joint exercise with the Coast Guard. It was called the National Level Exercise. We got less than expected out of the federal side as far as injects and scenarios. So the team that we brought down basically just started doing it all on their own so that we could get something out of it. And I think it ended up being really good. A lot of the younger police and younger security got a lot out of it. And it gave them the confidence to do some stuff that they maybe not have in the past. They identified some areas for improvement, some areas that they did great on, and they're going to follow that up with Eddie and George. But it went well. But again, the Coast Guard did what they could, but they had a computer failure in the middle of it, so it shut down part of their exercise. And so when we started feeding that information back from what was going on here, so they were happy with that too.
What was the lapse on the time?
We were supposed to start getting injects for it on Monday morning.
Yeah.
We did not get an inject from Corpus till Thursday. So Monday night is when we started just doing it ourselves and, calling in calls from all over the board and seeing how the police responded. And the gentlemen that were down here running it are retired law enforcement.
Yeah, you may have seen, especially you, Commissioner Lopez and
Yeah.
Commissioner Cowan, that at some point in time, the security levels went up at the gate with
Yes.
both lanes and scrutiny. Again, those were all the kind of the injects that
Yeah.
raising the level and doing, because
Yeah.
in a real case scenario, those things are going to happen. And I think what came out of this exercise is, one, is we got some good recommendations. As John indicated, the chief and the department is going to respond in writing to those. And I think we've got some good recommendations that will certainly not only benefit our program, but also benefit our overall security and police department. So that's something that is always useful, constructive criticism, things that we can do better, or pointing out things that we're not doing, and in some cases, it's also reinforcing things that we did well. I mean, I think the eagerness, the enthusiasm, the alertness of our staff on keeping eyes open and things was very, very good. Not just security, but other port employees that noticed things that weren't quite right that would call them in. And so, I think our staff is this is something that will, make us just a better organization. And more importantly, it kind of helps bridge the gap between those that are out there every day, but what we have to do at the administrative level or at the, communication with the public level. How do we support it, and where those lapses may occur? So it's going to be very beneficial.
And the police officers were very, very professional and very courteous. I was very happy
Yeah.
with that situation.
Well, I want to
Something
tell
that
you.
brought up the other day.
Yeah.
and I went through, they said, Commissioner, I need to see your actual driver's license, please.
They're doing their
And-
jobs.
That's what
And
they're
so I
supposed to
said, great. And I took it out and showed it to him, and
I will tell you this, is that in June, we concluded our customer service training. And some of the comments that we got back was how beneficial that was to the staff. That, some of the things that, we did April, May, and actually March, April, May, and June, because it was the last class, was that, some of those discussions, and so this is, was very helpful to them. And we got some feedback saying, that training that we went to, it helped us.
It helped them
And
out.
so just so you'll know, because I know that's something that you all had identified as something that you felt that we needed to do, and we did do it, and we're certainly not through, but it from our perspective, from Donna's and I's perspective, is that we're always interested in knowing that if we're going to spend money on training, that it's beneficial and the feedback is positive. That we're not we're not punishing you by making you do this. You may actually learn something from it, and so it was evident during this exercise that we got quite a few comments that, hey, that training that we did was really helpful. So
We
that was
sat
good.
back and watched as they did a lot of vehicle screenings, and I've searched a lot of cars in my life, and at no point were people upset with them. And usually when you're pulling a guy out of his 18-wheeler and driving all day, he's upset.
Well, I think if they would do it courteous, if anybody does it courteous, then you have a courteous response. And I think that's what happened.
So.
Good. I think we're off to a good start. I was impressed with the way the guys handled themselves. They were
We'll
yeah.
convey your comments to them. They'll be happy for them to know.
Eddie, I also know that there's some guards that became police officers. Are we gonna acknowledge them, or?
We've been trying to they've already been sworn in, but we do, and every meeting, we're going to set it up and something happens. And so we've essentially said that, because this is 2 months now, on the 19th, we're going to schedule the swearing in for ceremonial, and if it doesn't happen the 19th, we've been putting off long enough, but yes, we're scheduled to do that on the 19th. It'll probably your very first item on the agenda. They do want to invite their families. For them, it's a significant event because it's the first time they've been certified as law enforcement. So we do plan on having that done at our next meeting.
Do we have some light refreshments for the family? I mean, it's a nice step that their guys.
Sure.
Some tamales with
Tamalitos
or
I'll let
I'll pitch in.
I'll let at the discretion, your discretion.
No, but no, we are going to do that at the
Since
next
they're gonna
meeting.
have their
We've been
families.
meaning to do this like for the last 4 meetings, and one is ill, one's on vacation. We just can't, so we said, look, the 19th is going to be it.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
Great.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
John.
Mr.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Here's a copy of the sticker also.
Oh, thank you.
Gentlemen, we'll
Is
get-
that, no, this one doesn't peel off though.
No, that's just a copy for the field.
Oh, well, what it's gonna
Take
look
your
like.
school so
Okay.
you can get that.
I was gonna put it on my truck.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
I like it.
Item B is an update on the ARRA Tiger Grant.
Just very briefly, we've talked about this. In fact, there's an item on the agenda related to the Tiger Grant. I just kind of wanted to give you a little bit of an update of what's been going on with the Tiger Grant. Last week, I notified you all that we had submitted our summary form to the state for consideration for whether or not the State Department of Transportation was going to recommend supporting any projects. We went through that process. We were notified last week that actually they received like 97 projects, and our project was one of the ones that made the Commission's agenda to actually discuss and what they do. In the end, they decided not to do anything. They decided that they're not going to rank any projects or support any. Essentially, what the Commission has decided is that everyone who finishes their project, if they submit it to the state, and the state will check it for completeness, making sure it meets all the objectives, and they'll simply write a letter of support for all the projects. And so we are moving forward on that process. Today, the MPO Technical Committee met, and they endorsed our project. It is going to get presented to the full MPO next week, and of course, Commissioner Lopez sits on that. Don't expect any issues there. There's a couple of things just to keep in mind. One is that we are going to be having a discussion this week with Port Manatee, And what we're going to be trying to do as a strategy is try to link our grants together. They are submitting a Tiger grant. Of course, Florida ports are different. Over there, they're all state ports and so forth. So we're not submitting a joint application because we don't want to jeopardize ours or jeopardize theirs or vice versa. But it is important to create the linkages because of the commonality of sea bridge freight and the marine highway designation. You know, the marine highway is something that MARA has been trying to do for 20 years. And there's been very few that have actually kicked off. And one of the ones that has kicked off and has been successful is this one. So we feel that from a strategic standpoint that if we can both link them where we can talk about the strengths of not only our region, but where you're actually linking two regions of the country in that way, that may be another way of strategically being able to make us that much more competitive. So we will be doing that this week. And then lastly, as we're going through this process, Mr. Garza, Mr. Chavez, and myself were in Corpus last week kind of reviewing the progress of all the work associated not only with our Dock 16 project, Dock number 6, and the North Rail Yard, but some of the other projects as well, is that there may be some things that we will bring back to you, possibly the first meeting in September, where we'll be asking you to make some decisions as they relate to potential cost issues associated with where we wind up with these grants. And the example I'll use is this, is that, you know, when we charge HDR to go forward, especially as it relates to the depth, we told them to do the deeper draft of 53 feet versus what's currently in the channel. Both Oil Dock 5 and Dock 16 are at 45 feet. Well, the difference between 53 and 45 does have a bearing on costs. Examples is, and it's more apparent on the oil dock than it is on the cargo dock. A combined project could be the difference between $4 and $8.5 million. So as we refine these costs and we begin to look at trying to keep our costs within that contained 50 to 60 million. We may come back and make some recommendations on making some decisions that might make those reductions. I only advise you of that so there isn't any surprises down the road, because what we also want to look at is the completeness of the projects. We're contemplating looking at, for example, if we're going to do Dock 16 and the numbers are favorable, you know, is it more prudent to go ahead and pay for including rail and equipment than to go to 53 feet. You know, and because a container crane or another Gottwald crane or things are eligible expenses in the project. So those are the kinds of things we're going to be looking at. On the oil dock, for example, the difference between moving the bulkhead and possibly relocating a pipeline can be anywhere between $1 million to $6 million. So those are the kinds of things we're going to be looking at. So I just kind of advise you, at this point our goal is to have the first, like a working draft of the application at the end of August, and possibly our first meeting in September to have some of these discussions. It may not happen till after maybe we do the application and submit it, but those are the kinds of things that just want to make you aware that we may be addressing as we go forward on these, on the costs associated with the Tiger grant.
That's very good, but that's very perceptive of you to...
You mentioned the 53 feet, Eddie. What area would that fall under?
Well, right now what we're talking about is the study as proposed is looking at one of the scenarios in the widening and deepening is to do 50 feet the entire turning basin. So if we ever go to a 50-foot depth, you'd have two facilities that could be used at that depth. Right now, the maximum, well, the biggest depth we have is on number 5, Oil Dock 5 and Cargo Dock 16.
Okay.
We cannot go to those depths on the other facilities because you simply don't have, the support structures aren't deep enough to support that depth. They'll cave in. And so we can do it on that. So if we're ever going to be at 50 feet, I think the instructions that you all had to HDR at the time were, let's go ahead and look at that depth, because somewhere's down the line. And it's going to be a business decision. You know, two reasons with that business decision. One is at cost, and do we want to do other things that we possibly... The other one is, what's the likelihood that we're going to be at 50 feet in the next 20, 25, or however many years it would take. So those are just issues that we need to look at.
Because we also have the other project where we might come in, do just 50-something feet and a little
Right.
closer
Right.
and not go all the way to the
Yeah,
end.
yeah, and so those, I think in the end, it's really going to be more a business decision, but just want to make you aware that those are the things that we've been discussing and looking at, and possibly we'll come back with you to recommendations to make some adjustments to what we're doing as it relates to these projects.
Well, thank you.
That concludes my report, unless there's any questions.
Thank you.
Item number 4, consideration and action on the following consent agenda items. Item A, approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of July 15, 2009. Approval to authorize payments over $25,000. Item 1, Office of the Attorney General, this is ratify the final judgment payment on the Baldwin Waste Oil site made on August the 1st, 2009 in the amount of $58,333. Item 2, O'Brien's Response Management, professional services and travel expenses for John Sawicki and Rich Tubner for the period of March 4th through June 30th, 2009 in the amount of $61,944.86. Item 3, HDR Shiner Mosley, payment of task orders number 4, 7, 8, 10A, 11A, and 2A in the amount of $493,648.54.
One comment. I know, John, you've been doing a lot of traveling, but these expenses are not necessarily included in the overall service expenses. Is travel and expenses for John and Richard. Not to suggest that they've rung up $61,000 in travel expenses. You haven't, have you?
And just a question on item B3, and that's on the payment to HDR. All of that work and all those tasks are being performed. Mr. Chavez, everything going?
Yes, if you look at the agenda item that lists all the different issues that are being paid, if you look at it, we're working with them on different things. We're working them on an evaluation of dock number 3. We're working with them on evaluations of oil docks 2 and 3 also. They evaluated the bulkhead issue that we had between oil dock 2 and 5. They're also working on, well, in fact, one thing that's not here because they messed up on the way that they wrote the task order, they did an analysis for us on crane loadings on docks 10 and 11. So those are some of the projects that we're doing, and they're doing the mitigation land banking.
Okay.
The mitigation land banking is here, and all the others that I mentioned are also here as they were progressing. The biggest items here, of course, are the design for docks 16 and all that number 6.
That's two separate.
Right.
And if you look at the numbers there, the amounts that they're billing right now are between 10 and 15% of the entire amount that the board authorized. And Mr. Campirano, Mr. Gasa, and I had a meeting with them was it last week, Eddie?
It was Wednesday.
Last Wednesday. And we went over all the projects with them and everything that they had. They showed us the plans. In fact, one of the things that we told them is that right now we have only authorized for them to go the initial and the preliminary work. And we still have the option when they go to final to decide on the issues of the depth and all those things. And as Commissioner Callen mentioned, the issue now of the deepening and widening that might change because of deepening only up to a certain point and then not so much on this part, that would help us save money in the docks if we decide to do it that way. And we have a meeting with the Corps this Friday also on some of the issues having to do with the deepening and widening. So I mean, we're working on all of those things, and that's why right now we haven't directed them to go to final, in other words. And that's what's really pertinent based on what we're doing here. So all they're doing here is a portion of the initial and preliminary work.
It's 1,
Okay.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 separate projects. I will tell you this, and just kind of again, because if you remember when we took this action, it's like, we said, get ready to spend some money, because we are. I mean, just oil dock 6 and cargo dock 16 combined, if we go from beginning to end, through the whole permitting, through the whole preliminary, you're talking about $3 million. So But all of these get reviewed. You know, Mr. Chavez has to sign off of them before I sign off of them, and so I mean we've got them engaged in multiple projects. So rather than presenting them individually, this
Right.
is an
This is the
accumulation
one-
of those 6 task
Right,
orders.
and I just wanted to make sure that
They
that
finished
they're-
these 6
they're
task
doing all the
orders.
tasks.
No, that's
No,
progress
it's
today.
ongoing.
You're going to see more of these from you know.
That's good because that'll give us some time to know where we're at with our
Yes,
grant.
yes.
You know, because if
Yes.
we happen not to get one, then we
Yeah.
can stop right there.
Yeah, all of these are partials. And some of them are almost close to completion. For example, the mitigation land banking is closer to completion than most of the others. But most of them are either 50% or less.
Yeah.
The big ones are about 15% or less. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. You got a motion by Commissioner Lopez. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Arambula. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item carries.
Item number 5, consideration and action on assignments, negotiations, easements, subleases, and contracts in general. Item 1, Schaefer Stevedore Company, authority to negotiate.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Rolling Mill Warehouse and Distribution Operation under contract 3052 has notified us that they are no longer going to be operating in the port. Out of their sheds 7 and 8, they were operating for U.S. Steel, that warehouse, and they have an office space at our office port complex. And they have informed us that Schaefer Stevedoring is going to be taking over that operation. So I'm asking the board to give me authority to negotiate an agreement on a month-to-month basis for office space for Schaefer Stevedoring and a release of lease to Rolling Mill.
This is only on the office space.
This is
Yeah,
only on
this
the
is only,
office.
yeah, this is the building over here, and the reason we're doing
Now, this is the building that we are going to be remodeling based on the grant for the command center?
Right.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's right.
and so if we are gonna rent that space out, how are we going to,
On a month-to-month.
It's a month-to-month.
Month-to-month?
30-day
Yeah.
notice to
Yeah,
terminate.
Okay.
just so you're aware is that all of the tenants there have been advised that we have secured a grant for that, and we've told them that even though, in fact, one of your items today is to accept the grant, we may not receive the notice to proceed on that for another 6 or 12 months. But we've told them that even when we get that notice to proceed, we're still, from that point forward, going to give them at least 6 months' notice. So
Okay.
there's going to be plenty of time. We'll work with those tenants and have the ability to get them. So there's no urgency to have them out of there by, you know, in 2 months or 3 months or 4 months. I mean, if we got that notice, which we don't believe we're going to get it, say next month, then they would have at least 6 months before they'd have to make. So therefore, they're all short-term. They're all kind of rolling over on a month-to-month.
okay. Good.
What kind of square footage does that building have, Ms. Rosenbaum? Or the size of it?
It's about 700-800.
700-800.
I recall, 700.
You're talking about
No,
this
the whole
office space. The
building.
whole building
We're
is...
talking about the whole building.
Yes.
It's, because we did this stuff on the,
8,500?
8250 or something like that, I think.
84 to 8,500 square
50, I
feet,
think,
yeah.
You don't count the restrooms or the club.
And half of that's going to be George's
Yeah.
office, so, I mean, eventually.
All right.
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman.
I got a motion by Commissioner Arambula, seconded by Commissioner Lopez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item carries.
let's see, item 2, TD American Limestone Products LLC subordination.
TD American Limestone is asking the board to consent to subordinate in favor of IBC Bank Brownsville for $200,000. These monies will be used for inventory to purchase raw material from their plant in Mexico, or the plant that they operate out of Mexico. Their operation is sand and gravel operation. I'm asking the board's consent to this subordination.
Okay.
Like to wait to move to approve.
Got a motion by Commissioner Cowan, seconded by Commissioner Lopez. All those in favor? Item carries.
Item number 6, consideration and action on authorizing signature authority to designated grantee officially to accept grant award from the Department of Homeland Security in the amount of $2,617,027 on behalf of BND.
We can accept that.
Yeah, we can accept that. Yeah.
I think we can,
Definitely
yes.
$2 million.
Well, keep in mind that this is the one that has the $1 million
This is the
towards the
building.
command
Yeah,
control.
building.
And secondly, there's still a 25% match on our behalf, so accepting it, we're also accepting the
Added
additional
responsibility.
25% that goes with that.
That's a win-win.
And I think Donna was pointing out to me here that it's 8,800 square feet.
Yeah. And I've included in the backup all the items that we've requested in the, we had 3 different projects. One was expansion and hardening of the access control infrastructure, and that was $1.1 million. And then we had, of course, the renovation project, that was $1 million.
And that's the ceiling on that. We couldn't have asked for more.
We couldn't have asked for more. Yeah, that was the ceiling. And then the regional assessment plan that we're doing right now in round 7. Well, this is for 2009, so we asked to update that just to make sure that our threat assessments haven't changed, and update all the plans, and then update our plan, our facility security plan, and the reports. And then communication abilities. In this grant, we applied for a 350-foot tower 200-foot tower for our communication system within the port. This may change because we've been approached by another entity maybe to do something jointly, so that would be down the
I think we had been previously approached, and we had a presentation, if I recall, that was done where they wanted us to be part of, I guess, some local or joint system that would link up to the whole valley, all law enforcement, locals, and up the valley.
Right.
Is that what you're referring to?
No,
Or?
in that situation, they wanted us to front the money and everybody else be a part of the system. No, this is actually another law enforcement agency.
Yeah. We had a federal agency approach us about possibly erecting a tower here at the port for their own security, but
Okay.
doing so would give us access to the
Access to
tower.
it.
So
Right.
one of the things that happen, if we do that with them, then this money that we have in the tower could possibly be used for something else.
That's
Right.
even
Oh.
But, yeah, because they're talking much taller than, much higher
I
than
think theirs
200
was
feet,
350,
350
yeah,
or
theirs was
something. And that gives us other advantages, because if they did that, then our access and control infrastructure, especially our, the way we intend to, say, look from here all the way to the end of the entrance to the channel, something that high might give us another way to address than having to look at putting something on the
other-
eastern end of our
Yeah.
boundary. So
Yeah.
they've talked very favorably, and so we're probably going to, I think that they told me was sometime in September, maybe they'll come down here and we get into more. But whatever we do, we're going to bring to you for your
Yeah.
approval. But
It'll
that's
just-
one
yeah,
possibility.
timing.
Do we need to designate a specific person to accept the grant?
Donna has
That would be
been
Donna?
designated as the signator on the grants, and
Okay.
so I would recommend that you stay with that practice.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Got a motion by Commissioner Lopez. Do I have a second?
Second, right.
Second by Commissioner Cowan. All those in favor?
Okay.
Item carries.
Just as a bit of information, the Round 9 supplemental, which we also submitted, it did get reviewed at the regional level, and for our category, which we're in Category 3, it did get forwarded with favorable recommendations, so we may see something else coming out, announcement in the next couple, maybe 60 days, with approximately 1.8, about 2 million.
That was 4 million.
Was it?
That was our largest.
3.8.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
really?
almost,
Okay.
And
yeah.
that has
3.8?
zero cost share.
Yeah,
That has
and
zero
the
cost.
reason I want to make you aware of that is because part of that, the biggest component of that, if I'm not mistaken,
That was
1.8 million, was to put the utilities underground. And that plays a
big
bearing on our project, timing issues, whether we'll be able to do that on our, especially Ostis road improvements. So, we're kind of excited about that one, because that would be a big deal, especially if we were able to put all those utilities underground.
Yeah, and that's no match, and we should we should get that funding right away, because that was the
It's stimulus
the
supplemental.
stimulus, so
Okay.
we shouldn't have to go through all the hoops that we had to on the other ones.
Wonderful.
Very good. Good.
Item number 7, consideration and action on a proposal from industrial newspaper Staying Healthy for advertising the Port of Brownsville in their magazine.
This was an item that you, Mr. Chairman, asked that we put on the agenda. I can only tell you that I did receive some information from them, and they essentially said they had 2 proposals for us to consider, and quite honestly, what we have on here is the lesser of the 2. And it appears what they are, I have not talked to them, they've not talked to me, but it appears what this service would simply be would be to republish either articles or things that we have done in their magazine. So it appears it's strictly for advertising space, and so...
Would this be monthly, Mr. Campino?
Well, they didn't really say.
Or quarterly?
No, they're
6,600
showing
is the whole year.
an annual fee of
Yeah.
6,600.
But whether that means you get 12 prints, or that means you get 8 or 6, I can't
How
tell
many
you.
issues do they have of
They-
their,
They provided examples of what they have done. I think one of them you saw at the last meeting.
yeah, but I wonder how the frequency of publication is what I'm talking about.
They, I can't
Once
tell
a
you,
month,
I
I
think
think
it's a
is what
monthly
they're doing.
publication.
It's a monthly publication?
Here is an example of the Seabridge Freight, and of course, this is the one you had from the last month, so.
They've done a nice job, though. The layout of
It is
very
once a
nice.
month. It is once a month.
It is.
What is the distribution?
Provided no information, I can't tell you.
Yeah, I saw this one where they
very
put the
nice.
That
whole,
was it last month.
I think we were the centerfold then.
yeah.
Now, if you wanna table it and have me get more information from them, I would be more than happy to.
Is there somebody here from the
No.
magazine?
I don't see
No,
anyone here.
nobody came. Does anybody want to make a motion to approve now, or do we need to table this item?
What is your wish, Mr. Chairman?
I'd just like a little bit more information, just on the distribution. I'd like to, I would like to get us on here. I just have that question. I wish there was somebody here from,
Well, we have a meeting on the 19th. That's 2 weeks away. I can get,
We can do it.
I can
I
go
just
ahead
want to see
and-
what the
All right.
distribution is.
I'll get more information from them, and then I will go ahead and
I
provide.
mean, other than that, I
Maybe we can do that,
if it's a,
and maybe we can stretch it out to 2 years by having it 1 month yes, 1 no,
Well,
for the same amount of money.
I'll have some discussions with them, because, one is that, are they providing us ad space, or this is what they would charge if they're going to produce an ad for us? Well, there's no copy to be written, there's no photography, there's no this, so maybe we'll come back.
because are
and
these articles
hammer this out.
they're putting, or are these actual ads?
Those are articles that we do that have
Yeah.
appeared in other publications,
Yeah.
and they're
Right.
simply saying, we'll take what you've done and put it in our magazine.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So that there is no, they're not saying, we're going to do
No
features for
production
you,
cost.
we're going to write, issues for you or whatever. So let me get more information, let me meet with them,
Okay.
and then also advise them that at our next meeting, they need to be here.
Okay, let's just, yeah, it'd be nice if they're here, that way we can, if any of the commissioners have any.
table it?
Okay, we got a motion to table by Commissioner Lopez, we got a second by Commissioner Cowan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item is tabled.
Item number 8, consideration and action on a proposal from City View TV for advertising the Port of Brownsville on their network television channel.
This is an item that also you, Mr. Chairman, asked to be placed on the agenda, and this is one where you have had quite a bit of information on.
Right.
This is something that we have been discussing for, I guess you can say, for the last 3 or 4 months. So
Right.
I think the questions that have been asked and they've been answered, I know that Mr. Benavides is here, who is the proprietor of the service. I can tell you that the fee he is proposing is a negotiated fee. It didn't start at that. I think we beat him down to that amount.
Yeah, I
But,
think it was considerably higher, and it went down
it's
to,
available for your consideration and action.
I viewed the actual video, and that goes on their network, and the video plays 24/7, and our actual spot is a 2-minute spot that plays
It's actually 2.5 minutes.
2.5
Yeah.
minutes, and it plays how many, Mr. Benavides, how many times does it play per day?
Well, you're looking at 1,400 times per month.
Per month.
So about 400 times per week, 2.5 times per hour. Let me go up here.
Yeah, if you could come up to the,
How many of those times are during waking hours?
Well,
I mean, normally, I
it's
mean,
2 or
hours.
3 times an hour. So
Okay, so at 24 hours a day?
24 hours, it's a loop.
24 hours.
If it's 3 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the
It's gonna be
afternoon?
3 times.
3 times during that hour?
Yeah, exactly.
What's
2 to 3
the,
times.
what's the range or what?
Well, I actually did some numbers for you all, and we've got about 8,000 hotel rooms that we're currently in throughout the Rio Grande Valley. With about a 70% occupancy right now, you're looking at about 5,600 potential viewers twice a week. The average stay for visitors is about 3.5 nights per week. So you're looking at approximately almost 500,000 potential viewers per year that would see this. Some information that I gathered from some of the hotels around the valley were that a majority of the people that actually stay in the hotels are business travelers. One interesting tidbit that I got out of some hotels here in Brownsville, that out of the 90% of the people that stay at their hotels that are business travelers, 75 to 60 are already in business with the port in some way or another. So you get a lot of people already that are staying here that are doing business with you guys already. So, you know, I can even break it down to you in the amount of 28 cents per ad, which is what you all would be paying, you know, on a monthly basis. So 28 cents for a 2-minute spot, comparatively with network television. There's not even a comparison. Then you get 100 ads per month with a network television station, and you're paying $20 per ad. So 28 cents per advertisement for a 2-minute spot, of course, or 2.5 minutes is.
well, that's pretty reasonable. I think it's a pretty good deal. I think it's worth giving it a try, and what I propose is that if we approve this item, that we advise our tenants to see if we can get some kind of feedback mechanism. If we're able to generate at least one customer out of this, it's going to pay for itself.
Just one customer in itself would pay for the advertising.
Yeah, I think we just need to put our tenants on notice that we are doing this, and if they can give us any kind of feedback, if they generate any kind of customers or clients out of this ads, it would help us determine next year whether we want to continue with the service or not. But as far as the service is concerned, I think it's a good deal and it's worth a try. It's a way to promote the port, and I don't think we have anything other than our advertisements that we do at with the Brownsville Herald, and
We do have our, magazine publications that we do advertise in the trades, so.
yeah, in the trade.
I believe even with the Convention of Visitors Bureau.
That's correct. And we have a diorama at the airport, for example. I do
Right.
have one question for you, Mr. Benavides. I know that we've talked about how you're expanding your market to other areas that are not being served. How would that work?
Yes,
Laredo, for example,
It is.
Corpus
we
Christi,
do have,
the Ports
we are
Backyard.
starting the Corpus Christi market as well as the Laredo market.
That would help.
Those run as separate markets. Currently, you guys would be running throughout the Rio Grande Valley. That would be South Padre Island, Brownsville, Harlingen, McAllen, Farr, Mission, and that would be the cost for that particular market. Laredo is going to be a completely different market, and Corpus Christi would be a completely different market as well. But those areas are so close that I believe that y'all would benefit from those markets as well. At least the Laredo market. I'm not quite sure about the Corpus Christi market.
Well,
There's
Corpus got their own
they have their
port,
own
so
port there.
yeah.
I would imagine that would.
Just,
But you know,
we could put a map there showing that 77 is at Brownsville.
But you know, if people down here know that that they have access to those particular ports,
you know, it could all work very well.
Yeah,
The reason I asked the question, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, is that perhaps if after this, you know, when we look to see how this works, is that maybe we can negotiate those markets, because my opinion, for example, would be that, you know, obviously McAllen's an attractive business market for us, but South Padre Island may not. Is that
Right,
somehow or other we
right.
could switch and move, and where we really think strategically, once we get some feedback, where it would be better suited for that particular traveler to go after.
Yeah, I mean, even South Padre Island might not be that bad, because you get travelers that come in from Dallas and some of the major cities, you know, that are, you know, they're down for vacation purposes, but, you know, they may be in business.
Surprisingly, South Padre Island had quite a few business travelers as well, but they were mainly in for conventions and
Vacations
like that.
or whatever.
But they do have business travelers as well. But the main area that had many business travelers, and I think you hit the nail right on the head, Mr. Campirano, was McAllen had quite a few. And Brownsville has quite a few as well. So,
And if we can get into Laredo, that wouldn't be bad, because we can get a little share of all their truck traffic that's going through there. At 1% of whatever they're getting, that would be a lot.
Are there any other locations that you do besides the lower Rio Grande Valley?
Texas as well.
Yeah,
Central
Austin,
Texas,
San Antonio.
Austin area, yes, sir.
All right. Well,
Excuse me, I have a question for you. Do these just show in the hotel rooms? Or?
They do just show in the hotel rooms on the television. Every television in the hotel has their own specific channel that is targeted for business travelers and tourists.
Yeah, I've seen.
and usually,
Not just one.
I think it's usually the
Those are
first
very
one that you
effective.
turn on. It always goes to that channel after you.
I can tell you that when I met Mr. Benavides, we started talking about it, I started telling him what was on his channel in Austin.
That's right, actually. I think you did. You said, I've seen some of these the part of this show before.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I believe you had seen it in Austin. So.
Well, I'm in favor of it. Do we have somebody, a commissioner, that can make a motion in favor of it?
So moved.
We got a motion by Commissioner Arambula. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Commissioner Lopez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item carries.
Item number 9.
Thank you, Mr. Benavides.
Consideration and action to authorize port staff to advertise for bids on the construction of levees at the dredge material placement areas throughout the port in preparation for various dredging projects.
I was going to say, just kind of, no, go ahead. This is one of those good news, bad news items. So which one do you want first, the good news or the bad news?
Bad news first.
Bad news, I guess.
Bad news is the item.
Mr. Chavez, you're gonna give us the bad news?
The bad news is that we need to raise the levies in our placement areas to increase the capacity.
Okay.
And obviously, the accompanying good news is that the reason is that there was funds provided to the port for dredging the channel, and they're going to start dredging. Well, that's what he's doing.
No, go right ahead.
They're going to start dredging, God willing, in October. That was the plan. So that gives us very little time to get our placement areas ready. In fact, we're probably going to be getting them ready as they start, and I don't know if we're going to be working in conjunction or almost simultaneous with them on some areas. But what we would like for the commission to do this afternoon is to authorize us to go out for bids on that. We've been working with the consultant. In fact, there was a task order open from last year that addressed issues on the placement areas that was never concluded. So what we did is we took over that and continued it towards its end, which is going to help us with what we're doing now. So we already have some recommendations from the consultant, and now we need to just go to the next step and either draw up some plans or prepare some sort of a document that will allow the bidders to bid on getting the work done on the levies.
Mr. Chavez, where are those levies going to be located in number 1 and number 2?
Well, I can show you in that map better. See, you can see all the way over here. This is placement area number 7, which is an area that was used recently by AmFels, and it was also used, I think, by ESCO, right?
And All-Star Metals.
And All-Star Metals. So This is a fairly small area, even though you see it here, it's about 130 acres. This is area 7, this is area 5B and 5A. This is about, what is it, I forgot the acres here, but this is, let me see, this is 100, this is probably gonna be about 500 acres, or how much is this?
I think that's what it was, about 500.
500, and then this is a larger area even. And because these are square, raising the levee there actually is more efficient than this one that is a longer one. But we're gonna need this area, this area, this area, and then there's area 4 over here, which is all this section right here. And so the levees would be raised. If we raise 1 foot over here, it's gonna give us a lot of capacity because of the large area. And we basically, I don't have all those figures off the top of my head, but we have the report from the consultant that indicates the different options. And also we have the plan, the schedule from the Corps as to where they're gonna need the different areas. Originally, my thought, being a neophyte here, was trying to concentrate everything in 5A because that was gonna be the cheapest to the port, but it may affect the expense of the overall project. So we're probably gonna need to improve to some level each one of the areas so that they can discharge closer to each one as they go along the channel on the deepening and widening.
How high would the levees be elevated, Mr. Chavez?
What we need to do on 7 is probably going to require about 3 to 4 foot raising in about 3 to 4 feet.
Okay.
And some of the others are going to be less, but if you can see by the perimeter on 5A and 5B is much larger than the perimeter on 7. But the yield, like I said, the yield per foot is going to be substantially more because it's a more square, it's more efficient because of the square geometric configuration.
So this is not just putting a levee just along parallel to the channel, but you actually have to surround it.
Yes.
It's like creating a bigger
contain.
bowl, a deeper bowl, because the capacity is what you have within that area.
Within the bowl.
The good news, kind of like Mr. Chavez said, is that we did get word from the Corps that they have $8.5 million of supplemental funding available to us now. And that is going to be used for maintaining our channel. Now, we've gotten everything done but the channel. The other good news is that for next year, you recall that the Infrastructure and Transportation Infrastructure Committee for 2010 also had a recommendation to provide another $7 million for the Port of Brownsville, and that's looking at 2010. So, for the first time, we have an opportunity, once everything has been done at the entrance to the jetties, and all the way up to the entrance one of our goals has been to get us at authorized depth for the whole length. And so now it's really coming together, and this is just part of it. And so that's the good news. There's a couple of things with those disposal sites, is that we are required to maintain them. That is not like what happens in other ports. So one of the issues, in fact, if you read Mr. DeLay's comments here about the reauthorization on the transportation, is that one of the issues that we've discussed with the Corps is how do they come in and take over the responsibility to maintain our disposal sites. But one of the good and the bad with that is that right now we've allowed our tenants to dredge and deposit in those sites at no cost to them. And if two things would come out of that, in the future that would go away. Or that because you're talking about probably the last time we did some levee work, it cost us like $1.3 million. So we're not talking cheap dollars. Is perhaps in the future, to look to charge something to be able to recapture the ability to maintain the capacity, because you're always going to need capacity for the maintenance dredging.
One of the things that might come out of this too, it is that we might have areas that the Corps would take over, and then we should have enough land where we could, low land especially, where we could still have our own levied off area to where a disposal site for our use and our tenants' use, but charge a fee for doing it so that we could maintain them. once they're in
Well,
existence.
That's it.
We'll always have, I mean, you're always going to be forced to have a certain amount of capacity.
Yeah, no.
So we could either, one of the things that we've been talking about is, one is this is for this particular project, but if we go the course of the Corps taking over, it'll be developing a 50-year plan. And so within that, we're always going to have that capacity. And I don't know if we want to have so much capacity that you're taking up a lot of land for these disposal sites when you don't need to. So, I mean, those are the kinds of things we'll have to discuss and look at going forward. But for right now, it's like, the bad news is we got to do this, but the good news is that, hey, we finally looks like we're getting some money to do the maintenance.
It's going to cost us, what, between $750 and $1 million to do this?
Well, last time it cost us $1.3 million, and I don't think we did all the sites. You may be looking at a comparable amount of money.
Besides that, Eddie, we're also creating employment, are we?
Oh, well, and then this is something that local contractors can do. You're not really going to have to bring in some, this is earthwork.
That's good news right there. I mean,
Well, we're
promoting our local
stimulating
economy.
our own economy locally, so.
These monies, they've been allocated, or, I mean...
The Corps informed us that they had the money in hand, the supplemental funding to in fact, they're kind of like, we want to do this in October, so you guys better get moving.
Good.
The reason
And that's the money
Yeah.
for the dredging, the money
Oh.
for the
Yeah.
levy.
The 750 and the 1 million,
No,
We have to come up with
That's
our.
our money,
That's our
yes.
Yes.
That's-
according,
That money's been allocated for, though,
It's,
right?
no,
We just
no,
found this
no,
out, like-
no, we're gonna have to, we're gonna have to go into our budget, and we're gonna have to look, and, one of the issues that we're gonna have to come back with you with a recommendation as to, I mean,
Modify or-
we're going through a lot of capital dollars this year, just so you all will know.
Yes, we do.
And I'm just telling you that, don't be surprised that we're gonna see, $4, $5, $6 million to our capital budget committed this year, because this is gonna be one of the projects, and you may be looking at over $1 million.
It's all on our infrastructure that it was
Well,
desperately
the
needed.
reason I asked about the $750 to $1 million is because on the backup material, on page 55, fiscal implications, it says levy may cost in the range of $750,000 to $1 million. The port in 2009 budget will be a need to be amended to provide for this necessary expense. That's the reason that I
Yeah, but
asked.
that's a
Right, it's not
guesstimate.
budget.
That's a
Very,
guesstimate.
very
Guess-
preliminary
Yeah.
estimate. We don't have any plans
Yeah.
specifically to
Yeah.
give you a detailed.
We didn't want to shock
Until
you
we
into
get
morning.
until we get the bids
So
in, we
right
will
now,
know.
we'd go there and we get the bids, and so
Oh, yes.
this is just to give it a heads up that it's gonna cost us somewhere
We'll look
between
Be prepared to spend.
750 and 1.3, somewhere in
excess of
there.
$1 million.
What kind of timeline will we look at that?
We're going to have to move quickly on this. If the
Good.
Corps is
Well,
pressing us
it's
to say.
October.
So October, so we
They wanna
see-
we would be
yeah,
looking
we
at
do.
something in September, to be approving in September sometime?
Well,
How quick that's.
only maybe as
You gonna
early
go out
as
for
next
bids?
week.
That's,
Or
That's
for
next
proposals
meeting.
in August?
we're gonna have to somehow do something in late August or early.
September, and then we'll have to open the bids, and then we'll have to approve them in September, so that in October, when the Corps starts, we'll be able to start, like you said, almost
Yeah, that's what I'm
simultaneously,
saying,
as they're
we're
moving
working
their
on some
dredges
of
in and setting it up.
We'll need to have something ready for next meeting so that we can approve it and get it. Get this.
Maybe not for the 19th, but for sure for September, we need
No.
to get something.
We're going, look, we're going to be in Galveston on Friday. Well, this is one of the issues that's on the table.
Okay.
But, I mean, we have to get this, I think if you're going to do this, you've got to get it. Well, I don't know, the turtles don't really affect us because it's
No,
mostly
this-
inside the
yeah,
channel.
Yeah, and this is not, well,
Yeah,
it isn't,
it's
I mean,
not turning.
it's not during turtle season, so we're
Yeah,
okay.
so-
And that's another reason they want to get it done pretty quick.
There's going to have to be some flexibility. We know that come March is turtle nesting, so that's
Yeah.
that period. But we're going to be working with them. I can tell you that, again, they're going to be pressing us for it. So I know that we've got a lot of things on the table. This is just one more thing we're adding to it. So.
And there's options that we went and consult with the consultant as to what things we can do, as we try to work this simultaneously.
Well, I mean, the levies are already existing, we're just gonna raise the existing levies.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
In other words, all the placement areas have levees.
Yeah, but we may have to widen the base as well
Exactly.
to
Well,
support
that's part of what happens.
Yeah.
We widen it on the inside, and then increase the slope and then come back down, so.
Yeah,
It's not complex work, but it is.
A lot of work.
time-consuming, and it's a lot of it.
All right.
Chairman, I'll make
We
a
have
motion for that.
motion by Commissioner Aramula. We have a second by Commissioner Lopez. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item carries.
Just for one comment, I think they told us that they estimate something like 3 million cubic yards of disposal, so that kind of gives you
That's big.
the idea. I think the last jetty job was something like 460,000 cubic yards, so.
This is 3 million.
This would be quite a
Big.
bit more.
but that's what they put on the beach.
Core,
Yeah,
yes.
about-
Yeah, the Corps put that on the beach, so we didn't have to.
No,
No, we had to
but
pay
just
for
in
that.
terms of size of the job, I mean,
Yeah.
3 million
big.
cubic yards is more than probably has ever been done in the channel since it got dug.
Of course, that was what we put on the beach, was clean sand, because it came from offshore, where we were dredging offshore. Whereas here, it's a different.
That's not the type of.
No, it's not
No, it's
beach.
not what we put on public beach.
No,
right.
I don't think the island wants
Got
to
it.
put it on the beaches.
Okay, got it.
Item number 10, consideration and action to authorize staff to enter into a task order agreement with consultants HDR Shiner Mosley for professional consulting services on the Tiger Grant application preparation.
Again, this one is something that Mr. Campirano touched upon in his report. We have already had some meetings with Shiner Mosley, and part of the reason that we wanted to use them was because they're working on the docks themselves. So, and in addition, they have experience and they have a staff. I was really very positively impressed with the group that met with us in Houston. That was actually 2 weeks ago.
That's where they have the staff that would be doing the
Well,
work.
this is, HDR is a national company, and when you look at what is going to be essentially, there's a couple of things. Nobody's ever written a Tiger Grant. This is the first time we've done it. I think that the real key to that is that if you're going to be competitive, you're going to have one shot at it. And there's a lot of issues that go with being able to meet all of the criteria associated with what the Department of Transportation is asking for. The process essentially involves, you've got 25 pages to tell your story. But you've got a lot of backup data that needs to go into economic analysis, life cycle costs. I mean, they're asking for a whole lot of information. And I think we just simply don't have the capacity for that. And, we've kind of gone back and forth on this and long and hard. And, if we're going to attempt to be competitive and really do all of the things that are required in the grant application, we're going to need help. I think what HDR brings to the table is that, one, is that they have the resources and they have the staff that can help us in many more ways than just putting the application together. They're doing some applications for other clients, but a lot of their clients are rail. So we are essentially a port project. And I believe that we do need to put our best foot forward, because the payoff to this is going to be $50 to $60 million. And
You're talking about wanting to spend about a max of 100,000. Is that what the backup says?
not to exceed. I mean, we.
Okay.
It's not bad to 50.
Well, we're gonna need to improve our chances. We're competing with.
You're gonna compete nationwide.
Nationwide.
Nationally, and then for that kind of money,
It's very low.
that's a lot of money to spend,
I
but
can
it's
also
worth it.
tell you that in my PAC meeting in Austin, just with the Port of Houston and Beaumont and Freeport, they're all having consultants helping write their grants too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we could, this isn't going to be as simple as going through the TxDOT deal where we filled out a summary and told a good story and, hey, we pick you as one of 10 we'll consider. This, we believe, is going to be extremely extensive. And it's going to take up, I'll tell you, it's taking up a lot of, and it's going to continue to take up a lot of our time. Ariel, Donna, myself, staff is involved in the data collection for the next 30 days. We have to have this thing completed and in the Department of Transportation by the 15th of September. So it is going to be priority number one.
Yeah, well, Eddie, just keep,
Sounds like
keep your eyes on the deal, so we keep the cost down as much as you can, but I'd like to make a motion, we go ahead and do it. I mean, we got to put the shine on our grant application.
Absolutely, it needs
Get
to
it
go
through,
in there shining.
because, I mean, if we're
A lot
gonna
of
try,
people
we got a
are-
chance to get $60 million,
Yeah.
it's,
Now, we need to get moving on it too, so.
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Cowan, seconded by Commissioner Arambula. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item carries.
Item number 11, adjourn into executive session.
Do we have anything?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Item 12?
Well, possible action on matters of items.
Second.
None? Any public comments? None?
Item 14.
Motion to adjourn?
So
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're hereby adjourned. Thank you.